heart that hurts. I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life mending broken people.
Hello and welcome to another 3ABN Today program. I'm Jason Bradley, and today we are going to talk about Lineage Journey. What is Lineage Journey? Well, stay tuned, you're going to find out. My guests today, we have Adam Ramdin. He's with the North England Conference and he's the youth director. And then we have Clive Coutet, who is the media director of Weimar Institute. It's a pleasure to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Good, good. I've seen Lineage Journey, and the quality is so amazing. I want to find out a little bit about your backgrounds and you know, what it took to get this project to come together, how long it took. We're going to get into all that, but before we jump in to the meat of the interview, I want to go to a song by Matt Throgmorton entitled "Consider the Lilies."
Consider the lilies, they don't toil nor spin, but there's not a king with more splendor than them. Consider the sparrows, they don't plant nor sow, but they're fed by the Master who watches them grow. We have a heavenly Father above, with eyes full of mercy and a heart full of love. He really cares when your head is bowed low. Consider the lilies, and then you will know. May I introduce you to this friend of mine who hangs out the stars, tells the sun when to shine, and kisses the flowers each morning with dew. But he's not too busy to care about you. We have a heavenly Father above, with eyes full of mercy and a heart full of love. He really cares when your head is bowed low. Consider the lilies, and then you will know. Oh yes, he cares, I know he cares. his heart is touched with my grief. When the days are weary, the long nights dreary, consider the lilies, and then you will know he cares.
Wow, what a beautiful song. Consider the lilies. Adam, I want to find out a little bit about your background. Were you raised Adventist? So you were raised Adventist?
I was raised Adventist. Both my parents were Adventists, though neither of them came from an Adventist home. So I was born and raised in England, grew up over there. So raised in the church, wasn't baptized till I was 19 though. And then I went to do some studies and got into ministry in my 20s.
Okay. And what about you, Clive?
Pretty similar experience with my parents anyway. My mum wasn't raised Adventist, my dad was. And then I was raised Adventist, but kind of as a young person growing up in church, you kind of get lost. And I kind of left in mentally anyway. And it was really through some life-changing experiences in my late teens and early 20s that really changed my life around, and I found Christ again.
Amen. Adam, you're no stranger to 3ABN.
I've been here a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. What growth have you seen since you've been here?
Growth with the...
With Lineage.
Okay, yeah, we came about a year and a half ago. We were filming, we were releasing what we call season 1, and we're filming, in the process of filming season 2.
Okay.
So since then, we've obviously finished season 1. We took a 6-month break, and then we started releasing season 2. We're actually almost completed releasing season 2. So in that time, since we last came, it's grown a lot in terms of the countries that it's been viewed in, and obviously the number of people who've been watching it and where it's been watched. So it's been quite remarkable to see that growth. It was never something we knew would or expected would happen or thought would happen. We just thought, you know, a few people here and there might watch it.
If you had to throw out a number, how many people would you say have been reached?
Just shy of 3 million.
Wow.
Well, that's taken into account Facebook views.
Yes.
YouTube views, Vimeo views, and the website and so on. But the real number, we don't really know. Obviously, we don't know. I mean, that's the digital number you get. But a lot of the testimonies we get back in is that people who are watching it in schools, so like classrooms, or they're watching it in Sabbath schools, or they're watching it. A lot of churches show it at the end of Sabbath school or divine service. So, you know, it may be one view, but 200 people watch it. So we don't really know exactly.
Nice.
You know.
So you said churches are showing it and Sabbath schools and all that stuff, and schools are showing it. What kind of, how do they use that? Like, can they do seminars with it? I mean, how's that work?
Well, I know for example, my home church, they kind of do it as a youth program, and they have the youth watch the episode, and then they have a discussion about it. We know other churches who kind of use it and play it in between Sabbath school and divine service as like a filler. Especially the 500-year anniversary of the Reformation in 2017. You know, all the churches were talking about Reformation and what was happening in the Reformation. So it was really good for especially church members to kind of learn history, learn the background of, you know, the origins and roots of Protestantism. So yeah, it's being used in multiple ways, whether young, old. Everyone's kind of taking the information and learning just tons of information.
Praise the Lord. Now, how did you come up with the name?
Good question. So the idea was Clive's idea. He originally approached me on the steps of the British Museum and said, "Hey, do you want to film some videos on Reformation history here in England? We've got the British Museum, we've got John Wesley's home and so on." And then we thought, well, let's go to Oxford and Cambridge and Lutterworth, where John Wycliffe was from. And then we thought Scotland. So we kind of built this idea, but we were still, and then the idea was to have a series that would go weekly, so one episode a week throughout the year.
Okay.
So that was the idea, weekly episodes. And then thinking of a name, we brainstormed a lot of ideas. And it was actually, so we're thinking of all these ideas, and some of them now I look back, I'm so glad we didn't pick them. Lineage kind of has a ring to it. It's just one word and whatnot. But the idea kind of behind the name was that the episodes were chronological. So we started with Constantine, and we went all the way up to, say, the end of the 1700s, and each episode was chronological. So the idea behind Lineage was we're tracing the story of our heritage, of our history through time. So then Lineage journey, the journey of our lineage and how we can trace that through time.
Nice. So have you always been into history?
Personally, I have, yeah.
Yeah? What about you, Clive?
I wouldn't say I was, especially in school. I definitely wasn't. But as I became an Adventist and really found the Lord again, especially after reading The Great Controversy, that's when my mind really just got unlocked. And when I started to visualize, I'm a creative, so I started to visualize a lot of these stuff, went onto YouTube, tried to find, good representations, good videos, and I just couldn't find that stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess, to answer your question, no, I haven't always been in history, but as an Adventist, yes, I have been in history.
And why do you guys think it's so important to be aware of your history?
I think, for me, history and identity are so tied together. And, a lot of people today want to know where they come from as, ethnicity, or they want to know what their family heritage is, or, let me trace my family tree and all that kind of stuff. So we have an interest on a personal level. But I think spiritually, increasingly as Christians or as Adventists, the younger generation is not always aware, of what happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago. But it's interesting to know I believe those stories, because it plays a part into shaping who we are today. And so knowing your past helps you to understand why you're here in the present, really.
And also helps you to understand the future.
Yes, because they say history has a tendency or a way of repeating itself.
It often does, unfortunately. So we can try and learn the lessons from the past, then
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I know you said that you want to show like an episode a week. So how many episodes are in a season?
Initially, season 1 was going to be, the full 52 weeks, but it didn't quite work out. So it was only 48.
Okay.
But 48 is enough.
Yeah.
This I will tell you was a lot.
It was a lot of work. But then season 2, we kind of made up for that, and we did 52.
Okay.
So in total, for season 1 and 2, we have 100 episodes.
Wow.
Plus loads of, behind the scenes videos. We also have season 1. A lot of the videos have 360 video as well.
Okay.
So young people can kind of explore the locations to where these things took place in 360-degree video. So yeah, we have quite a lot of episodes, and I would say there's probably about 60 360 videos, and maybe about 10 behind-the-scenes videos. So we're looking at about 170, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. And what's your creative process when you're thinking about, creating these episodes? What's your process? What are you thinking about while you're developing this?
For me, I'm really thinking about how is this history, which often enough to the average person may be boring, how can we make that boring history relevant to someone in their life, But then also the message has to be relevant, which is why there's an evangelistic appeal at the end of every single episode, but also visually, how is it going to be appealing? Often enough, stuff can be very low quality, or, it may not be to a very high standard, but, young people want to see good quality stuff. And, one of the things that we were thinking about is on social media, for example, on YouTube or on Instagram, you have probably up to 3 seconds to reach someone before they just scroll past.
Yes.
So that's why, at the beginning of every single Lineage episode, there's really fast-paced imagery within the first 3 seconds. There's really fast-paced clips to kind of grab someone's attention, so that it would draw them in to want to watch the rest of the 3 to 5 minute video.
Nice.
So yeah, really important in terms of the creative process is the message, obviously, but also how is that message gonna be portrayed visually?
So there's a science behind it.
Yeah, definitely.
We've also tried to make as much of the filming on location. So rather than, a green screen or something, and there's no problem when, some people have to use that, but we've tried as much as possible that if I'm talking about John Wycliffe, I'm standing by his church, or talking, and I think that gives it an added, realness or authenticity. Like I'm talking about John Huss and I'm standing where he died, or we're talking about William Miller and we're in his house. So it gives that connection. It's not just, so it shows that, we went to the places and the filming was on location.
I think with like this millennial generation that we have, it's not enough just to read it in books.
Yes.
sometimes. And some people don't even read books, you know, but it's not enough. People want to kind of see what you're talking about. So that's why, you know, being on location helps people to explore those places. This is where, you know, Martin Luther stood up. This is where, you know, John Wycliffe,
Yeah.
this process, this is the physical location where these things took place.
It really brings it to life.
Exactly.
So, okay, so when you're recording these episodes and, you know, from start to finish, give us an idea of, let's say, not the creative process, we talked about that, but from start to finish, how long does it take?
To film or to edit?
To film from start to finish, filming, editing, planning, the whole nine.
I mean, the filming, if all the filming, say, is in one area where we could walk to where we do all the different shots, roughly four hours, roughly. By the time you do the drone shots, the B-roll, the dialogue, and memorizing it and whatnot. So probably about 4 hours.
4 hours of recording, really?
Maybe three.
It also depends on, you know, a lot of the time, the locations are in different places. So sometimes we have to travel in between that. But if we were to just do it from start to finish, probably filming-wise, 4 hours.
Maybe less.
Typically, in terms of trying to save money, we've had to do things really quickly.
Okay.
So we're kind of in and we're out and onto the next location.
He's always like, "Oh, I got 6% of battery left. You got to get it right. The sun's dropping. You got to you got to do it in one take. You know."
Yeah. No pressure.
Right.
No pressure.
But in terms of the editing process, season 1 typically per episode took 2 to 3 days.
Wow.
Season 2 has taken, about 1 to 2 days. That's because, you know, we've been able to refine the process and review. After season 1, I was able to review things and see what's a better way of doing it.
Yeah.
We've been able to cut down the time a little bit. But it's still very time consuming. So you're talking about, you know, at least 3 or 4 days per episode. And that's not including the script writing and the logistics and the planning and all that kind of stuff.
3 to 4 days, per episode.
Per episode,
okay, so isn't that 2 to 3 days for all 50-something?
No.
Whew, okay, I was about to say that is incredibly fast.
Now, if we knew all the work before we started the project, you know.
And some of so like you film a lot on location, right? So you have to climb mountains and stuff, or like to get some of these shots.
I mean, some of the first season was a lot in Europe, so a lot of it was in the capitals, the cathedrals, and places like that. And there were some places we climbed the mountain. The Waldensian episode, we climbed that mountain to film at sunrise, and so we had to leave at like, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 to climb up, and we got there. At least Clive got there and got the sunrise. I was a little bit behind him. Season 2 was Adventist history, and that was a completely different, for the most part, completely different, because instead of going to like big austere cathedrals and, you know, seeing Reformation statues and monuments, we were traveling like New England and New York, just tiny little farms and little villages. And it was an interesting contrast to see the contrast between, say, the Reformation origins and then seeing the origins of Adventism, which was very humble and very, to the average view, insignificant. But yet to see where our history has come from really humble beginnings to where we are today is pretty amazing.
Yeah. And I think season 1 was also challenging at times because we were filming and editing at the same time.
Wow.
You know, so like Adam just mentioned, there's one morning where we climbed up Mount Castelluzzo to go film an episode in the Waldensi Valley, and the night before we had an episode coming out that very morning. I was editing till 3 a.m. to then wake up at 5 to climb a mountain, you know, and the process was because we were very new to this, it kind of grew organically and so fast, you know, there wasn't much time to kind of refine things, but we managed to do that for season 2. But I mean, even just making stuff visually interesting for season 2. Season 1, like Adam said, monuments and that kind of stuff. But we have an episode in season 1 on the potato patch preachers. You know, how do you make a potato farm field look interesting? These were some of the challenges that we had to get through. And,
man, how did you do that?
Watch the episode. Watch the episode and you'll find out.
Yeah. And we actually have some video that we are going to show. Tell us a little bit about the first one that we're going to take a look at.
Probably the easiest one to make visually interesting was the one on Adventist education, because we're talking about the history of Adventism, But then key to Adventist, our church, Seventh-day Adventist Church, is a focus on education. So we did an episode on how Adventist education started, where the vision came from, the focus on education and holistic education, that it wasn't just kind of academic achievement, but it was the education of the whole person, and it was mission-minded, it was Bible-based, etc. And when we released that episode, we actually put out on social media, on Facebook and Instagram, if you've got video clips of your Adventist schools, please send them in to us. And we had an amazing support around the world of people sending us clips from Korea and different parts of Africa and South America and Europe. And so that episode, we were able to get video clips kind of worldwide, showing worldwide Adventism education today. And people really connected with that when they saw their school or their alma mater, on that. And so that was a real blessing, that episode. So.
Oh, well, we might as well show it right now. Let's check out the birth of Adventist education.
The Adventist Church was in its infancy, with a membership that was only in the tens of thousands, and yet it had already made ventures into the publishing work and the health work. Despite a small membership, it would soon move into the educational field as well, with a vision far greater than the reality of church life at the time. A school had started in 1868 by Goodloe Harper Bell that was supported locally here in Battle Creek. But in 1872, James and Ellen White would call for the upgrading of this school into an advanced educational institution, and also for the denomination to support the school. As guidance for the school, Ellen White wrote Testimony for the Church, number 22, where she developed the fundamental principle of the correlation between the physical, mental, moral, and religious aspects of education. The Bible was not to be just an elective option to study, but was to be infused throughout the whole curriculum, eliminating the classics as the main thrust. Initially, the teachers and administrators struggled to implement what they probably didn't fully understand themselves. As well as making the curriculum Bible-based, there was also the admonition to include a manual labor program. Education was to move away from the Latin and Greek classics and be holistic, focusing on character development and daily reminding the students of their obligation to God, to live for Him and be a missionary wherever they were. The focus on manual labor and missionary work is reflected in the early names of these schools: the College of Medical Evangelists, Emmanuel Missionary College, Southern Missionary College, Australasian Missionary College, and Oakwood Industrial School. The purpose was for mission. The name of the school reflected the purpose of the church to train missionaries at home and abroad. The vision to start a comprehensive educational system would mushroom and grow. Education is such a key evangelistic strategy. The places today where the church is stronger have a strong Adventist educational system that is valued and supported by the members. Education that recognizes it's not just for academic advancement, but that is also evangelistic and redemptive, echoing the words of Ellen White that education and redemption are one. The work of education now encompasses the globe with the largest Protestant school system, but our strength lies not in our size, but in our faithfulness to the original purpose of setting up the educational school system. Practical education with a clear mission focus was the primary motivating factor rather than just academic excellence. Many today do not have the opportunity of an Adventist education. If that is you, then may you be a witness in your school or university like the Waldensians in years gone by. Proverbs says, train up a child in the way he shall go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Whether it's at Sabbath school, homeschool, or Adventist school, we see that education is vitally important in solidifying what we believe, as well as giving us the skills that we need in life. If you live near a school, then support it. Support the youth who are attending, whether it's financially, through your prayers, by volunteering, by working, or in whatever way that you can.
Wow, that made history come alive. What countries have you been to record?
I was counting the other day, I think it's about 11, 12. So France, Italy, Switzerland, Czech Republic,
Germany,
England, Denmark, Sweden, England, Scotland, Wales, then Australia, New Zealand, United States of America. And I think that's it.
That's it, yeah.
So far.
Wow.
So far.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a bit right there. Yeah. Has anything out of the ordinary happened in any of these countries?
I mean, we've had numerous testimonies that have come through. I say one of the testimonies that we heard recently is actually from where we're from England, was a young guy who maybe he was about 9, I think, or 10, and he was in school, and he actually went to a Catholic school, and he actually knew Adam because Adam preaches a lot in England, and his teacher's actually an atheist, and they were doing some history lessons on some of the work that took place in England, and they ended up playing one of the Lineage episodes in a Catholic school by an atheist teacher. And he shared a little testimony. He ended up telling his teacher that, you know, he knew Adam. And was there anything else? Yeah,
the teacher was looking for, was online searching for videos that would illustrate his point of noble characters from history. And he bumped across a Lineage episode and showed it in class. And the student there in England was, you know, really excited to tell his teacher that, hey, you know, that's some, well, I know the person, but also that's something. So that was interesting to see that it's not just being used maybe within the circle that we would assume, but you know, in a public school as well. So that was pretty. But in terms of like experiences, you know, we shot an episode in New Zealand last year, and there's a guy that's mentioned called Eric Hare, and he's a prominent figure in the history of what took place in New Zealand. And we ended up driving to this town called KO, and in the town, there's like a little museum. We went to the museum and we were talking to this lady, and we were asking her about the information about Eric Hare, if there was any pictures or anything like that. And she was kind of intrigued, like, why are we interested in this person? We come all the way from England. This town is smaller than Thompsonville. Yeah.
It's really small.
Tiny. Yeah. You probably like 200-300 meters long, just a few houses. And yet it's interesting because the Adventist Church, the Jehovah's Witness, and the Catholic Church in New Zealand all started in this little town. Wow. So the locals kind of know their history, they know their heritage, and this is there. So when we came up, they're asking about the Adventist history, like Joseph Hare or Eric B. Hare. Her ears perked up. And you know, we discovered that she was actually a descendant of him.
Really?
So she was a family, a relative. I can't remember if it was great-great-granddaughter or, you know, second cousin or something like that, but she was a relative of this man. So she was super intrigued about what we're doing. She's very helpful. Very helpful, sent us all this information. We went back to England and, you know, she sent us more photos, and every now and then I've emailed her saying, you know, do you have this or do you have that? And she's taken pictures and photocopied, and she's not an Adventist herself, you know. It was just a blessing to see how we're on the other side of the world, and we managed to meet a descendant of, you know, Joseph Hare, who was prominent in starting up the work within New Zealand, and she was just so helpful and really grateful that we were doing a video on her family history, really.
Yes, so Joseph was the first Adventist in New Zealand. Okay. Then his son was Robert Hare, who became a famous evangelist. He studied at Pacific Union College, went back there. He had a son called Eric B. Hare.
Okay.
He was famous in Adventism for being a story writer, famous missionary. He was in Burma. And so a lot of people know Eric B. Hare. And then so when I think this lady would probably be like a second or third cousin down from him.
Okay.
Her great-grandfather, who would have been Robert Hare's brother, ended up going back to the Methodist Church and didn't stay an Adventist. But yeah, it was very, very unique and very interesting to
Yeah, that sounds like
have a connection that far on the other side of the world and have someone so helpful. Yeah.
But even that, you know, we've had great experiences. There's always people in different countries that have been really willing to help us. And, you know, we went to France and filmed some episodes there, and we had the youth director in France who was really interested in what we were doing and helping us go places. And it's just been, everywhere we've been, doors have just opened and God has really just led us.
Praise the Lord. What about Muslim countries?
Oh, that's a good question. Recently, we've been having a lot of views, at least on Facebook, in Muslim countries. So Afghanistan, Libya, Iran.
Wow.
And just some of them that come off the top of my head. And so I don't know how or why, but there's something happening over there. And so it's interesting to look at the views of, you know, America, Philippines, England, Australia, but then to see these countries pop up as well, it shows that there's a great hunger in all parts of the world for.
And interestingly enough, there's been a guy who runs a ministry over in one of those countries, I'm not sure where, but he takes Adventist content and he translates it and then he posts it on his channel in the Arabic language. And he's been taking our videos and reposting them. So I'm guessing that may have been one of the avenues in. But it's just showing that, you know, these episodes, they're kind of being picked up by different races, different religions all around the world. And they're kind of taking it and translating it and getting it into places that we can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard of these videos. You know, YouTube is banned in places like China, for example. But I've heard of people who have downloaded them, sent them on WhatsApp, or sent them through mobile media platforms.
Wow.
And you know, sharing these. And it's funny when someone sends me a video of what I've done, but they didn't know that I did it. You know, it's funny how it just goes full circle, but it just shows that, you know, the Lord is opening up opportunities for digital media to get out into the masses.
Yes, digital evangelism.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So what are some of the, well, first, before we go into some of the responses, how many translations are there?
Up to 18. And that's subtitles.
You said
up to 18. And I say up to because not every language has done every episode. But up to 18, you can find some of the episodes would be up to 18. Some of them would be less. Depends. We don't translate ourselves, so you know we're kind of I guess you say crowdsourced, or people submit the translations, and that's kind of how we go with it. Now, in terms of dubbing, up to, is it 3 or 4?
3, I think.
Up to 3.
Okay.
One language, Polish, did the whole of season 1, fully dubbed in Polish. Italian, most of it, and Slovenian, or one of those languages as well. And so there's quite a bit on that. That takes a little bit more time and effort for people to do. But there's a fair amount out there. We have them all on our channel, but they have them on theirs as well.
That's amazing. And people are voluntarily doing this.
That's volunteers. People contact, hey, can we translate? We're like, sure, you know. Just make sure you give it to us after you've done, you know.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. What are some of the responses that you've received once people watch Lineage?
One of the interesting ones we had was, like I said, it's used in schools and some people use it. There was a young schoolgirl in Georgia who we saw a little video on Facebook, and then we contacted her and she made a video and kind of gave it to us after that. But she was, I forget her age, so it's around 10. She's around 10. I forget exactly how old she is. Maybe a few years older, I'm not sure. But she was doing a worship for her class, and she had to do a worship, and she was doing it on William Miller.
Okay.
And then she has watched Lineage Journey at home with her family. They watch it regularly. And so she used the video as part of her doing her worship for the school. So that was really encouraging to see that someone of a young age was taking this resource, was speaking publicly, was using it as part of her, you know, her resources that she was using to share. And that was really interesting and encouraging to see someone sharing. And
another story that just came to mind was last year I went camping in Wales, and I met a guy, and I was speaking to him, and he was asking me what I do, and I was explaining about Lineage. Just like, oh, you know, I watched Lineage, I've watched it a few times. And he went on to say that he's studying history, I think it was religious history, and he said, for his exam, he would watch the Lineage episodes, study the content out, and when he actually took his exam, he would get, the question would be asked, and the episode would come to his memory, and the point of what Adam was saying would come to his memory, and he passed his test. So he basically used it as a way to study for an exam.
Wow, I needed you guys when I was in school.
That's why we've got to make sure it's historically accurate.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you know,
That's right.
these are just some of the ways. I mean, there's plenty more that we could come to, but I think we'd be here for a while.
We've had a few teachers contact us and, you know, just share how they use it. We've had academy deans. I know the dean at, I believe, Georgia Cumberland Academy. She's the dean of ladies. She uses it in the dawn worship. So,
Actually, another one that just come to mind, which would be really good to share, is there was a teacher who was teaching a kindergarten, I think it was, and they were watching some of these Lineage episodes, and she sent us a video of her class who had taken the episode that we did on Jerome and Huss, and they'd watched the episode, and then they actually recreated the episode using Lego. So they'd done John Huss, you know, burning at the stake, and they'd done him in prison, and, you know, all of these different points that we'd covered in the episode. The kids had actually made these, I guess, monuments or structures using Lego, and she sent us a video of all of it, and it's pretty amazing to see that young kids are taking this and being able to understand it, and then, you know, obviously create wonderful masterpieces out of Lego.
Yeah, that is amazing. And I mean, they're really taking in the history because, you know, at that young age, like, their minds are like sponges.
Exactly.
They're so impressionable, and they just absorb everything that they're learning. So
I mean, we
that's
didn't
awesome.
create the videos per se for younger children. That wasn't our target audience. But as we travel around, we find that a lot of the younger kids especially really connect and enjoy it.
Yeah.
I guess the short time is, you know, appeals as well. That it's not like, you know, sit down and watch a 60-minute video or 20. It's just short and...
Yeah. I'd like to transition a little bit into New Zealand. Let's talk about New Zealand.
Oh, well, we kind of mentioned earlier that the filming, the episode down there. It's fascinating to see how the church started in New Zealand. And as I said, as we were filming down there, we met that lady who was integral to the Adventist history there. And it's fascinating to see how the church started,
Well, we actually have a clip from that episode. Let's take a look at that.
Funds had been raised by Sabbath school members in California to send a missionary team down to Australia. The intention was to open the work in Australia, but God had additional plans in store. Headed by S.N. Haskell, the team stopped here in New Zealand for 4 to 5 days en route in 1885. Impressed by the friendliness of the people and noting the libraries in town, Haskell commented that the people must be interested in learning and would therefore make good prospects for learning Bible truths. After settling in Melbourne, he decided to return to America and stopped off in New Zealand on the way. He had heard of a group of Sunday-keeping Adventists and found accommodation with Edward and Lizzie Hare. They introduced him to others in the area, and he held some meetings over the course of a few weeks. Breaking the evangelistic rule, he presented the Sabbath on the first night and the second coming on the second night. They were convinced and encouraged him to visit the rest of the Hare family who lived north in Cayo. Deciding not to return to the US, he stayed with the Hare family in Cayo, about 250 kilometers north of Auckland. This area is rich in religious history, with the Methodist, Anglican, Catholic, and Seventh-day Adventist churches having roots in the area. Here he met the patriarch of the family, Joseph Hare, an Irish Orangeman, who along with his family lived in a house on the mound behind me. He also met his son Robert, and both of them were preachers. Haskell was invited to speak and spoke for 3 consecutive Sundays, along with evening meetings and also holding Bible studies during the day in the home. The Hare family decided to keep the Sabbath, and this chemist behind me would end up being one of the first church buildings that they met in. Robert, the son, had a difficult decision to make. He was engaged to be married. The house had been built, the furniture had been ordered, but his bride-to-be objected to his new beliefs. It was marriage or the Sabbath. She wouldn't convert and he wouldn't compromise. The marriage was off and he left for America to study for the ministry at Healdsburg College. Haskell returned in 1886 and ran a 2-week evangelistic series, and before he left he organized the KO Seventh-day Adventist Church, the first in New Zealand, on the 23rd of March 1886. Haskell sent a good report to the General Conference and requested an evangelist be sent. The choice was 28-year-old A.G. Daniels, who would later go on to be the longest-serving General Conference president. A.G. Daniels brought with him a 15-square-meter marquee that was pitched here in this park, along with a pedal organ, and together with his wife, lived in a tent on site. A.G. Daniels would lead the first evangelistic tent series in Auckland and drew large crowds. And at the end of 17 weeks of meetings, a Sabbath school with 78 members was started. Later on, a small wooden church was built on McKelvey Street with 67 charter members, and the first service took place on the 15th of October, 1887. This was the first church built in the Southern Hemisphere and still stands today as part of the Ponsonby Seventh-day Adventist Church. Robert Hare would soon return from the USA with his American bride, Henrietta Johnson, and thrust himself into the work here. A few years later, a conference would be formed and the work would progress to the South Island, with S.N. Haskell, amongst others, starting the church there as well. A few years later, the conference would split into two in 1915. A college was also started at Longburn on the south part of the North Island. When Ellen White was in the South Pacific, she spent some time here helping to establish the church and spoke at the first New Zealand camp meeting, and also began writing on the life of Christ while she was down here. And so the stop on the journey to Australia turned into a lot more than just a few days' rest. God had bigger plans than just rest and relaxation. S.N. Haskell's return journey to America never materialized then, and instead the church was birthed here in this beautiful country. Sometimes we have big plans that we want God to accomplish, and whilst that's good to have, we must always be open to God turning things around, and remember, as Isaiah says, that his ways are higher than our ways.
Tell you what, you guys have been teaching me all kinds of new things today. Now, as I look at that production and I'm looking at the quality of it, it seems like we've got you two sitting here, but how many people are on your team? Because it seems like there would be a lot of people involved with this.
It's more than just us. Clive's the main camera guy, but we also have another two that would work with the cameras and the filming.
Okay.
We have a photographer. We have someone who writes all the content for our website and our blogs and our articles, and also does fact-checking on the scripts that are written. We then have my wife, his wife. They kind of assist in the producing. For season 2, my wife did the sound, audio sound for that. She kind of learned that and did that. Who else? A website, someone who does the website. So there's a team of around about 10 of us.
Wow.
That if we're all there, that would be 10. But you know, sometime it'll just be me and him, but ideally there's like 6 or 7 of us who are filming on location. So it varies where we go, about 10. And so different people have different skills and talents.
Yeah.
Some of them are just for the visual, and then others are for the back end or for the, you know, the supporting resources that we make as well.
And what resources do you have?
At the minute we've got the website, which is very involved. There's a lot of articles there, but we're in the process and almost ready to produce a series of study guides. that would go alongside all of the episodes of season 1 and season 2. So the idea would be that someone could watch the video and have a small group Bible study or a Sabbath school class or a youth group or something like that, and then watch the video, and then you've got a study guide to enable you to have discussion that's clearly taking you to a point. So you're not just saying, hey, what do you think, guys? But these are different questions we've put together. There's some Bible text, there's some biblical illustrations that match with it, we think, and it would help the Bible study or the small group leader or the pastor or the Sabbath school leader to be able to have a constructive discussion.
That is nice.
So we're about to release that for season 1 and 2.
Okay. And you guys also have T-shirts and all that stuff too, right?
Because the guy who's our photographer works as an illustrator. He works for Apple actually as an illustrator. So he's got some really kind of unique designs for T-shirts. Martin Luther and John Knox, William Tyndale, and John Wesley.
Yeah.
We've got T-shirts that people can buy if they want to, support Lineage or wear it that way.
Yeah. So what can we expect in season 2?
Well, season 2 is out, and that's Adventist history, but the dream or the plan is to have season 3. And so really what we've covered so far, you could summarize and say it's a history of
Great controversy.
the book Great Controversy, because we start with Constantine and then we go all the way up through Adventist history. So it's really covering the time period that the book Great Controversy covers. Our idea now is to go back in time.
Okay.
And to go back to Genesis or Patriarchs and Prophets.
Okay.
And have smaller series. So we're looking at maybe 10 to 15 episodes on the book Patriarchs and Prophets.
Okay.
So covering that time period, then Prophets and Kings, then probably a few more episodes on Desire of Ages, just because we have more locations that we could film at. And then Acts of the Apostles is the journeys of Paul. So the idea is season 3 would probably be broken down into 4 segments. And then together with what we've got, it would provide people with a big narrative of the Great Controversy theme.
Nice.
Through scripture and through history. So that's the plan, to kind of go back to complete the package. And so that's going to involve filming in some new countries. That would be Israel and Jordan, Egypt, and some countries in the Middle East and the Mediterranean area in order to complete that, to make it.
And how long is each episode?
The episodes, we typically aim to hit about 5 minutes.
Oh, wow. Just 5-minute episode? How long? I mean, so when you're airing them, let's say you put them on YouTube, is it the same? How long?
Yeah, they're 5 minutes there. Like, for example, on 3ABN, we have them on there, but we've put 5 episodes together to make it into a half an hour production.
Gotcha.
But each episode individually is about 5 minutes or so long.
So it's bite-sized pieces, bite-sized content, very digestible.
I guess the catchphrase would be it's short and shareable.
Yes, for the digital evangelism. What are some of your needs?
Well, we're hoping, in order to film season 3, we have to, raise the funds to film season 3. It's a dream, it's a vision at the minute, but we need to kind of raise the funds to go and film that and create these resources to, be used by people out there. So we have to raise the logistical costs for that. At the minute, everyone on the team is voluntary. We both have other jobs, so this is kind of something we're doing, I guess you say, on the side. And all the other team members, they're volunteering their time. They have full-time jobs and they volunteer their time. So at the minute, it's voluntary. So we need to kind of raise the funds to kind of just the logistical expenses of filming and getting around and doing stuff. And
And so let's recap what's all involved with the project. So people, because oftentimes you see a finished project, but you don't know everything that goes on behind the scenes. Yeah. So let's go over that.
In terms of the videos, it's the writing of the scripts, it's researching the locations, it's traveling to the locations and filming, and all of that involves photography, video, drones, etc. And then it's on the back end when Clive has to do the editing and putting the post-production together. Then it's the producing of the study guide that goes along with it. So it becomes quite a...
And there's dreams to do a few other things as well, like an audio series, longer documentaries on each reformer. Nice. There's other things in the pipeline that we're kind of thinking about, but obviously all these things take resources,
Yeah.
And so we're kind of just dreaming, but we dreamed for season 1 and we dreamed for season 2, and we're at the stage 2.5 years later now where we're dreaming about season 3.
Yeah.
So you know, we know God can provide for us.
Yeah, and he continues to do so. Do you guys have any like movies in your future? Are you thinking about?
We have one already on Martin Luther. It was kind of done that we released on the day of the Reformation. We partnered with ARTV, Adventist Review
nice.
TV.
Uh-huh.
It's called 95, and it's kind of just on Martin Luther.
Okay.
It's about 45, 50 minutes long, just on Martin Luther. So the aim really is to do like longer stuff.
Yeah.
So like a whole 1 hour segment on John Wycliffe or John Wesley, you know, because we're kind of touching the edges of all these reformers.
Yeah.
There's so much more information. What were they like? You know, did they have kids? How was it like standing up to the Catholic Church as Martin Luther, who had a family? You know, those kind of things. So we kind of want to delve a little bit deeper.
Nice, nice. So kind of really exploring their background and who they were as an individual, in addition to what they contributed. Nice. So, all right. So we've got the movie thing. We've got bite-sized content, shareable content. Study guides. I think the study guides is an awesome idea.
Yeah, we're looking at releasing those in hard copy, but also because of the younger generation that we're not solely appealing to, but obviously is a large audience, we're also going to release those on Apple as iBooks.
Okay.
So they're interactive, they have illustrations, they have interactive maps and all that kind of stuff. We already have a few prototypes that we're kind of working on behind the scenes.
Nice, nice. Well, I can't believe our time is almost up. We definitely want people to know how they can contact you, how they can support you, and all of those things. So we're going to go to an address roll and a news break, and we'll be right back.
The Lineage Journey is designed to help you understand your spiritual heritage and explore the links between the past, present, and future. Visit lineagejourney.com, where you'll find both Season 1 on the Reformation and Season 2. The journey continues, featuring the history and pioneers of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Donate online at lineagejourney.com or contact them by email at info@lineagejourney.com. Check them out on social media or subscribe to their Twitter feed at Lineage Journey.
Wow, our time has escaped us. You know, for those people that may be wondering, can they get the Lineage series on DVD? What other platforms is it available
Good question.
on?
Yeah, we're not just on social media in terms of YouTube or our website. We're also on Roku.
Okay.
So if you have a Roku box at home, you can watch it.
Download the app.
Yeah.
Download the Roku app.
Yeah. Then if you have Apple TV, we're on Apple TV as well.
Okay.
And then also we have DVDs as well.
Okay.
Of Season 1, people can order the DVDs through our website if they, if they want to get a hard copy of the resource. Because some churches may not have Wi-Fi, or maybe some relatives don't. And, they can have the DVD and watch it that way.
Now you said download the Roku app though, but what is the app on Roku?
So it's called Lineage Journey. So just type in Lineage Journey and you'll find
Okay.
it on the Apple TV and the Roku. You'll be able to download those apps and get all our videos and all our content available there.
Now, did you guys have all of the answers when you were starting the Lineage Journey, or?
Definitely not. I mean, it was a project that really took a lot of faith. For anyone watching out there, I'd really say, those who are faithful in little are faithful in much. Luke 16:10. That's kind of been the verse that has carried me through this. And I would say that sometimes you just have to go out and do stuff and, let the Lord deal with the rest. And this took tremendous sacrifice from everybody in the team. But we're at a stage now where the Lord has helped us to grow. And, if you're struggling with what to do, if you're struggling of how you can utilize your gifts, just start somewhere. Just start being faithful in the smallest things, and God will multiply it, and before you know it, you'll have a ministry that'll be able to impact people.
Amen, amen. Well, I want to thank both of you guys for, the work that you've done. I know that going out and recording all of this and traveling, all the travel on top of your job can't be easy. So I want to thank you for joining us.
You have good wives.
Sharing
We're
with us.
thankful for them.
Yeah, they seem to be very supportive of you guys and what you're doing, and that's awesome. So thank you again, and thank you for joining us. Our time has just escaped us, but we hope that you'll tune in next time. Until then, God bless.